This week, India's population, starships explosion, take 3 for the sea, and a screechy Belgium competition.
Over here! Hey, listen up!
Newsy Pooloozi. Hello and welcome to Newsy Pooloozi, the coolest pool of news and information for kids.
And adults like
it too. I'm Lila, and that's my sidekick Lindy, known to me as Mama.
Mama.
And we're Newsy Pooloozi. This week, it's official, even if it is a guess, India tops the charts. At what? Wait and see. SpaceX test launch of the world's biggest rocket goes wrong, but not everyone thinks it's a bad thing. We'll tell you what Take 3 means in Australia, and for the world, actually. And have you heard this? Yes, it's a screechy competition in Belgium, but you'll have to see the gall of the competitors to believe it. Alrighty then, let's dive on in. First up, it's
the big news story
of the week.
One thing any regular listener of this podcast would know is we are recording from New Delhi, India.
Which is a crowded country, as we've also told you many times before.
In its many mega cities, of course.
But even in the countryside, you don't go too long before seeing another person, let me tell you.
Imagine a country that is a third of the size of the United States,
but with more than 4 times the amount of people.
Well, for a long time, India has been on China's heels as the most populous country in the world, but now it's officially caught up.
India is the most populous country in the world. Okay, when we say it's official, we mean it's an official guess.
Yes, new data from the United Nations is predicting India's population will reach 1.4257 billion people by the end of April.
Like in a few days?
Yes.
Whoa! And if the world has a total population of just over 8 billion people, that means more than an eighth of humanity live here. I feel so tiny.
Yes, an eighth of humanity living in a place a third the size of the USA. Wait a minute. Oh no, I totally goofed up the math there. Oh, so embarrassing. This is a correction. The world has more than 8 billion people, meaning nearly a sixth of humanity, not an eighth, live right here in India, which is roughly a third of the size of America.
No wonder it's so crowded here.
The good news is that the rate of growth here, as in the fertility rate, is slowing down.
That means the population growth here isn't expected to get crazy bigger.
Exactly. In the 1950s, the average Indian woman had 5 to 6 kids. Now the average woman has, 2 children. That's what better health and better education of women in particular gets you.
Of course, rural India is still a long way on that score, as my mother, who's the editor of Village Square India, will tell you.
Oh, you have been listening to what I talk about at dinner. I'm so happy. Yes, the more women are educated and take control of their own reproductive choices, the more likely they are to plan for a family size that suits them. And then you don't have to rely on government regulation to control your population, like India did in the 70s with its forced sterilizations, and China did with its one-child policy. But don't get me started.
Let's not.
I'll save the rest of it for our dinner discussion, shall I?
Yay!
And now, going up, up, and
boom!
Yes, it's time for
Space News.
Only sadly, it's not good news.
Not for Elon Musk, anyway.
Or is it? Okay, let's cut across to the United States, where our space correspondent, Anna Kelly, is standing by with the story.
Take it away, Anna.
Thanks, you guys. Yes, last Thursday wasn't a good day for billionaire Elon Musk or his company SpaceX. See, they spent years designing and building the biggest and most powerful rocket ever made, eventually meant to send people and cargo to the moon and Mars.
5, 4, 3.
But when they tested the unmanned Starship rocket, things didn't go as planned. Blast off from the south of Texas was great, But just 4 minutes later, there was a problem.
Yeah, Kate, right now it looks like we saw the start of the flip, but obviously we're seeing from the ground cameras the entire Starship stack continuing to rotate. We should have had separation by now.
The rocket began to rumble and tumble and then exploded into the Gulf of Mexico.
Starship just experienced what we call a rapid unscheduled disassembly, or a RUD, during ascent. But now this was a development test. This is the first test flight of Starship, and the goal was to gather the data and, as we said, clear the pad and get ready to go again. So you never know exactly what's going to happen, but as we promised, excitement is guaranteed.
The cause of the failure is still not clear, but putting on a brave face, here's what Musk tweeted. Congrats, SpaceX team, on an exciting test launch of Starship. Learned a lot for next test launch in a few months. Learning from mistakes? That's the spirit. That's what tests like this are for, right? It'll be interesting to see what comes next. Reporting from the U.S., I'm Anna Callie for Newsy Pooloozi.
Thanks a lot for that report. Keep us posted on how the next test launch goes.
Yes, and it's interesting to note what another billionaire, the Indian car mogul Anand Mahindra, has said about Elon Musk. He said his most important contribution isn't his company's Tesla or SpaceX, but, quote, his powerful attitude to risk. Most would be terminally daunted by such a quote-unquote failure. But when you set up each initiative as a learning experiment, you extend the frontiers of knowledge and progress.
I'll think about that the next time I do badly.
You should. And as a quick update to this story, the Federal Aviation Administration in the U.S. is investigating the launch amid claims of smashed windows and rained ash on the habitats of endangered animals. Looks like there's even more lessons to learn from this launch.
What's that? I'll tell you what. That's the halftime bell, which means it's time to hear what's making news around the rest of the world. Hold on tight. It's
Around the World in 80 seconds.
Whoa, hold tight.
Fighting between the army and a paramilitary group continues, with the death toll increasing in the East African nation of Sudan. Amid the chaos in the capital Khartoum, a former politician wanted for crimes against humanity has been freed from prison. 4 large asteroids are set to dash past Earth. 2 are the size of airplanes. But while there'll be close encounters, experts say they're almost certain to pass by harmlessly. Phew. Staying with space, after 5 months heading to the moon, a Japanese lander has most likely crashed on the surface of the moon. The Tokyo-based iSpace company had hoped the lander would release an exploratory rover, as well as a tennis ball-sized robot developed by a toy maker. And scientists have found when animals travel across long distances, the bigger they are, the more slowly they go. Why? To avoid overheating, of course. Clever beasts.
Well, thank you so much for that wrap of what's making headlines elsewhere in the world, Mama.
That's it? That's all you got?
I like to shake things up a bit, keep you guessing.
Okay.
Wibbity wobbity zippity zappity up. Okay, I can't resist.
That's my girl. And now, it's the call of nature.
Nature.
Get on your safari suit
Or squeeze in your scuba gear.
and get ready to hop into a Jeep.
Or a submarine.
Submarine.
Because Mother Nature is calling.
Nature.
So with summer just around the corner, that means summer holiday.
Okay, Mama.
Which for many of us, not lucky enough to live year-round on the coast, it means a trip to the seaside, as the Brits would say.
Oh yeah, beach life, here we come.
Unfortunately, that also means a lot of nasty waste and garbage left behind.
And And eventually, if it doesn't sink or biodegrade, it ends up in the Great Plastic Garbage Patch, also known as the Pacific Ocean Trash Vortex, as in a swirling whirlpool of plastic trash.
There are two, in fact, one way off the coast of California and one on the other side of the Pacific, close to Japan. Both are sad markers of what humanity has done to this beautiful Earth. If you haven't seen pictures of these, it's worth a quick Google.
But even before that rubbish ends up in those swirling garbage patches, trash can really harm sea life.
Yep, in fact, it was seeing this effect that inspired 3 Australian eco-warriors to start a rubbish removal campaign called Take 3.
Dun dun dun. And here to tell us more is our new Australian correspondent, Saffron Barnes, who lives right next to the beach on Australia's central coast. Take it away, Saffron.
Thanks, Leela. Have you ever seen one of those horrible photos of sea turtles with straws up their noses? If you haven't, I don't recommend it. It's very sad. But our plastic waste is ending up in the oceans, devastating marine life, leaving them tangled up, choking, starving, and even dead. Well, this inspired a marine biologist, an environmentalist, and an educator here in Australia to join forces and create Take 3 for the Sea, an action group with a simple idea. Whenever you go to the beach, don't just clean up after yourself, but pick up 3 other pieces of rubbish you find on the beach. Genius, huh? They say we owe it to the turtles to make plastic pollution a thing of the past. So far, 30 million pieces of rubbish have been removed from the oceans, and 129 countries have participated in the Take 3 for the Sea campaign. Not bad work. I have to say, every time I go to the beach, even though I can't stand sand, I think of those turtles and always try to take 3. What about you? In Central Coast Australia, I'm Saffron Barnes reporting for Newsy Pooloozi.
Awesome story, Saffron. I have to say, I've never heard of Take 3 before, but what a great idea.
Seriously, I've stopped using plastic straws or taking those little shampoo bottles from hotel rooms after seeing so many of them washed up on the beaches.
You don't even use plastic toothbrushes anymore.
Nope, not if I can help it. Just have a look at those great Pacific garbage patches and see if you can.
And finally, let's see what the Lucky Dip Machine has for us this week.
Step right up.
Have a go at the Lucky Dip Machine.
The Lucky Dip Machine.
What's it going to be today, eh?
An oddball, no doubt.
An oddball, no doubt.
Oh yes, this is odd. No music necessary, Mama. This has a rhythm all its own.
Okay.
Ah, the sound of seagulls at the beach. Or, humans in a bar in Belgium imitating the intrusive bird.
Good heavens, why?
Well, many people think the opportunistic pesky pests with wings are frowned upon by the public, go figure. Never mind the food-stealing birds can eat up to 20% of their body weight in food each day, did you know?
I did not.
Nevertheless, seems a group of animal lovers off the coast of Belgium set about getting humans to imitate them to boost their image by hosting the European Seagull Screeching Contest.
As you do.
And they didn't just imitate the shrieky tweets, oh no. See, the 50 or so competitors were not only judged on how well they imitated the seagull sound for a possible 15 points, but they got an extra 5 points for how well they imitated their behavior. Boy, is it funny. Yes, we have links to the videos in our transcript. You should really have a look.
Oh, my stars, I'm watching now. Yep, this is one to see, folks, or should I say, to see and gulp. Get it? Seagull, seagulp. Yeah?
Oh, dear.
And, Leela, what's your best seagull impersonation? That's it? And it's time to wrap up the podcast with the top 5 facts heard today. Fab fact number 1. India is set to dethrone China to become the world's most populous nation, with a population of 1.425 billion people, according to the UN. That's a fair chunk of the world's total population, which is what? Just over 8 billion people. Fab fact number 2.
The good news is that India's fertility rate is slowing down here. In the 1950s, the average Indian woman had 5 to 6 kids. Now she has how many children on average? 2.
Fab fact number 3. The largest and most powerful rocket ever built, SpaceX's Starship rocket, blows up minutes after its test launch. Who owns SpaceX? Elon Musk. Fab fact number 4.
An organization in Australia called Take 3 for the Sea is inspiring people to take away 3 pieces of trash with them whenever they go to the beach, which can not only harm animals, but end up where? The Great Plastic Garbage Patch, also known as the Pacific Ocean Trash Vortex.
Fab fact number 5. A town off the Belgium coast hosts the European seagull screeching contest to improve the image of the food-stealing pesky pest, who can eat how much of their own body weight in food each day? 20%. And don't forget, if you want to test yourself later on, and you know you do, come on, see how well you are listening. Well, then go to the Lucky Dip blog page of our website, newsypooloozi.com. That's P-O-O-L, like a swimming pool, O-O-Z-I, and take this quiz online in your own time.
Squawk, 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 squawk. That's for all the seagulls listening. And as we come to the end of this episode of Newsy Pooloozi,
we want to take a minute to ask you if you like to read, or be read to even.
If so, the Children's Book Podcast is a good one for you to try.
Today on the Children's Book Podcast.
The authors and illustrators you love, and some who may be new to you.
To me, the biggest gift of reading is to gain empathy and understanding, to be able to step into another person's shoes and see the world from their eyes, to get to know one another just a little bit better.
The stories you can't stop thinking about, and some that have been waiting for you to discover.
The book is also about how lots can be achieved by being an individual, but lots more can be achieved with the right team.
The messages on the hearts of those who write stories just for you.
Don't be afraid to tell your own stories. You don't have to rely on a famous author or podcast host or movie maker to tell a story. You have your own stories you can tell. It can be a story about you.
This is the Children's Book Podcast. I'm Matthew. I'm a teacher, a librarian, a reader, and a big fan of yours. I'm glad you're here. Tune in each week to meet the authors and illustrators making books just for kids like you. From award winners to up-and-comers to the storytellers behind those forever books you'll never forget.
Find the Children's Book Podcast wherever podcasts are found.
Read on, readers. Read on.
Alrighty then, that's all from us. We'll see you next week in the happy, splashy, giant Newsy Pooloozi.